Well, this conversation today is going to be one that I've been having with one-to-one clients with just watching synchronicities happen in the world. And I think that it's an important one for us to step into today to really own and understand and be within. Because I feel like there's a lot of us out there running around with our heads cut off almost, sitting in chaos, sitting in depression and anxiety, sitting in the unknown, lack of clarity, disbelief, doubt in ourselves, and all the other things that you could classify as potentially being misaligned or not in your alignment of truth. Because as we know, when we are a soul and we jump into this body, we bring with us the knowing of this feels good, which means I am aligned in my purpose, moving towards my purpose, aligning myself and the things I'm meant to do on earth. And when it doesn't feel good, we are misaligned, we'll say, or off path or moving in the wrong direction. Now, granted, we live in a world with free will, which is amazing. Such a beautiful, beautiful gift that the universal alignment, God, source, divine brought into our field to be able to utilize. So we come down for this experience. And a lot of you are seeing this show up in your world right now. You're seeing in the past, even in your life, that you made a choice. And through that choice, a causation happened, or through that choice, a reaction happened to the choice that you make. We call it cause and effect, right? And I've been really leaning into lately, especially because I'm teaching a program like literally that starts today called Alchemy. And this is about all the ancient knowledge of Hermetic philosophy. And literally, Hermes, not the god Hermes, but the actual pure source Hermes, they call him the master of masters, brought forth this knowledge and information of universal alignment, of how to work within the purity of divine source. And one of the principles of it is cause and effect. When we step into something and make a choice, it has a ripple effect and a cause in the world. Now, this happens in multiple fronts. Obviously, it happens in the betterment for us, like in our alignment when we're in joy, peace, love, as we step into that space and move it through and we really honor that vibration and we lead with it, we create more of it, right? And this isn't just about being positive. I'm not talking just about that, but it's about really aligning yourself into an ability to surrender and trust processes. And you've heard me speak to this if you've been listening to the podcast before, or if this is your first time here, welcome. It's just so grateful to be connected. But as we step into this space and as we honor this space and as we move through this space, we start to feel and see the truth in alignment with where we are. Now, it doesn't mean that it's always easy to keep stepping into our truth. A lot of us are put up against the wall. Voice structures, meaning like our throat chakra, is challenged a lot of the time, speaking our truth and stepping into that truth because of the fact that we may hurt people, or we've been conditioned to stay small most of our lives and not speak our actual truth and not step into the space. So that vibrates in our field. A lot of people have challenges literally moving through the truth within them because of what people are going to think and how this shows up and all those dynamics. And I know I've spoken to this before. But as we move through this conversation today about us being supported by the universe and us being supported by divine, this is a natural byproduct, a natural progression, a natural movement within us. Because as we start to surrender and as we start to trust this natural alignment that we have been birthed into on this earth plane, literally, we were given this as a worthy, like you are worthy because the universe says you are a human in this human form and you have access to all these amazing truths. You have access to this plethora of information, this plethora of knowledge, this vibrational field of frequency around us. But we forget that it's there. And when we were on the other side as spirits hanging out, in other dimensions, floating around doing whatever we were doing before we jumped into this human form. Now, granted, we may have still been in multiple other human forms, but that's a whole other conversation to have at some other later dates. It's done. I touched on it in the past life podcast that I actually launched a few weeks ago. So if you want to go back to that and listen to some information in connection with timelines and different dimensional soul alignments and all that kind of stuff, you can go there. But we literally come into this form and we have all the tools necessary, but we forget that they're there. Now, granted, when we are young kids, we still remember because the veil is really thin when we birth into the earth, but we can't talk. That's where the telepathic communication comes into play with parents that are awakened and like parents that understand this vibrational alignment. They could step in and actually honor that telepathic communication with their kids and start communicating with them literally when they just pop out of the womb, and have these conversations and keep heightening this awareness so that when the baby comes into ages where it can talk and move through and honor and step into the space, it keeps that vibration alive within their field. But most of the time, what happens is the parents don't have an understanding, which is granted. Most of us have never been taught this, and they don't have the understanding. So therefore, they diminish all this vibration in their children's life. Now it's showing up more and more that more parents are awakening. So this is a plethora, a movement within the field that's happening right now in connection with this new birthing, these new children. And if you listen to the podcast I did with Monica Bermudez, we talked about the new patterns dropping into earth through these new babies coming through. And I talk about this experience about how I'm being called to have two children on the earth to do this exact thing, activate them when they come out of the womb at an early age to move through. It doesn't mean that I won't come up against all the human stuff, which I'm very much aware of, but light language and honoring who they really are and stepping into their truth and speaking from that perspective and honoring the spirits around them and utilizing the ascended masters and all the archangels that are serving the earth right now, and playing with the dragons and energetic fields and really stepping into this purity of light. Most of us don't remember this purity of light is here. We forget that it's here. We forget that we are supported. We forget that things are aligned for us, that there's a pathway we're meant to walk. And it doesn't mean that we don't have free will and we don't have choice, which we do. But the pillars that have been put in place by your soul's contract before you jumped in are in place. You can't move them. They are here. They are necessary. And you start to see your life getting harder and harder and more chaos and more drama when you are not stepping into the pillar that is activated in your field right now, that is necessary and needed for your alignment to move through, for your ripple effect to happen, for your piece of the puzzle to move through the world. So a couple things that we forget is that the universe is always working with us. Now, they say the universe is working for us, which is exactly the right statement. And it's also the same truth, with us and for us. So meaning when we can get our head out of our ass and we can start to actually drop in and align our energy and align ourselves with source, with higher divinity of energy, and start to fucking listen, things start to change and move around us. Things get easier, things get more aligned. We start to see things start to move through the collective. So cool. So the other day, I got reconnected with a woman that I actually worked with probably about 12 years ago. Now think about this. So Colleen, 14 years ago, got activated, stepped into her space. Well, I was activated before that, but just not in awareness of it and not understanding any of it. And I still 12 years ago didn't understand it all. But I was connected to a woman who had a child on the spectrum. And I could say he's autistic, and he's a nonverbal autistic child. And at the time, especially, that's what he was. And I got brought in to help her telepathically communicate with him. And it was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Well, I knew I had a gift with gifted kids. I knew I could speak to them in different ways. I knew that I could connect into them. And later on in this actual life, I will be working with a lot of them. And I think it'll probably happen, after my kids are at a certain age and I move through this next phase of evolution in my business structure and world and in my relationship and all that kind of stuff, because I feel like it will drop in around that time that I could actually go and serve and actually help activate more children and help them really align in that space, because their parents may know, but not know how. And then creating communities of these people around the world that step in to help activate these kids so they can get on their mission, help shift the light codes in the world and help realign the earth experience, right? That's what we're all here to do. And she happened to listen to the podcast I recorded. I was asked to be a guest on another podcast. She listened to that. She knows that woman really well. And all of a sudden, all these things clicked. And about 3 weeks before that, she said she was thinking of me, but she couldn't remember my name. And all of a sudden, all the stuff came together and she recognized my laugh and everything moved through. And we were in a back chat, and it's like so fun how the universe works. And she's at a pivotal point in time right now that she's considering moving through another phase of her world. And she's like, I was looking for another intuitive. And then all of a sudden this started to happen. And it's so fun that how this whole entire thing transpired, because my girlfriend, Laura, who's a friend of mine here in Costa Rica, has a podcast. And Laura and I had been Instagram friends or connected on Instagram for a while. She was very vocal throughout the whole like COVID pandemic movement. And I loved her vibration. I loved the things she put out. I loved the truth she spoke in the world. And I was like, I love this lady. And it was early last year, like in 2022, that I said to one of my girlfriends, I'm going to be on that podcast one day. And so life started to happen. I found out Laura was moving to Costa Rica. And it ended up being the same place that kept dropping into my field. So there was another confirmation about me moving to Costa Rica here. Long story short, we live 5 minutes away from each other, and we ended up getting together for dinner, and we are now friends. We walk the beach together, we go to yoga together, we hang out, we do all the things, right? And just like our friends would, whether we're in Costa Rica or not in Costa Rica. And one day we had just gotten back from a beach walk, and we were talking about pragmatic stuff and like, total truth and the vibration that I hold in the world and my mission on earth. And she sends me a message. She's like, I want you to be on the podcast. And I said, yes, you do. Right. Because I knew back last year that I was destined to be on her podcast in some way, shape, or form. I didn't know how. I didn't push it through. I didn't purposely step in and ask her. I let the universe serve it up on a platter for me in the right divine timing. So then it was a couple of weeks ago, I was at another girlfriend's house, and her daughter is my podcast producer. And you're going to start to hear me talk about her more because she's amazing. And she's literally opening herself up to take on new podcast clients moving into the next few weeks. So if you are looking for a podcast producer, reach out to me. I should have all of her packages and everything up soon to help promote her, because I think it's just so important as a collective we keep moving together. But she says to me, because she also podcast produced Laura's podcast. And I said to her, hey, have you listened to the podcast that Laura and I recorded? And she said, no, like it's in the hopper. There's quite a few guests before you. And this is what I said to myself. It will all come out in divine timing. So literally the next week, I get a message from Alyssa, my podcast producer, and she's like, hey, I'm editing your podcast. This thing is a freaking amazing. And I was like, oh my God, like I didn't think that this would jump in the hopper. And then literally a few days after that, Laura messaged me and she's like, we're putting it out on Thursday. And I said, amazing. So in the divine timing that this is moving. Now, this is also a pivotal cog in a wheel, in a bigger, massive movement in my life that's moving through me right now. And everything is aligning in its divine timing for it. And the thing I want to say to you guys in connection with this is a couple of key things. A, when it dropped into my intuitive field, it came through the mechanism and it came in as a thought. And I went, oh my God, that would be amazing, right? And it wasn't that I was told to take an action. I was told to hold it as a vibration in my field as a possibility. And I dropped it in and I walked away. I didn't need to do anything about it. I didn't need to step into the space about it. I didn't need to move a needle. I didn't need to message her because the timing wasn't right. Now, it landed in my field so I could recognize it, so that when it did come in, I would have more and more stories of amazingness to tell you guys. As you guys can see right now, I'm just blocking the sun. Those of you guys on video here on YouTube and watching it on YouTube, I'm just trying to hold that space, but beautiful sunshine here today in Costa Rica. As I digress into randomness. So I tell you this because of the fact that I made this awareness that was going to happen sometime in my life. I didn't need to do anything about it. I didn't need to become more worthy for it. I didn't need to, and maybe I grew as a person in alignment. I had conversations that dropped in intuitively and moved the needle forward to the point that I was ready to support the messaging we were going to bring into the world, which is exactly probably what it was. But I didn't have to take another course to get on there. I didn't have to become something I wasn't. I just needed to trust the process, that it was going to happen and that it was already done in the energetic field. And whenever the universe wanted to drop it in, it would drop in, right? And in the alignment that it's playing out right now, it's these amazing things that are starting to come out. This past woman I used to work with, like just so powerful how this moves through the collective of energy and how it all starts to transition, right? It all starts to come into the field. It all starts to move within the collective of energy. And I went, this is so interesting. Now, this is happening to you in your life consistently all the time, whether it's in a negative perspective or it's in the purity of light in a powerful way. Now, all things are powerful because sometimes we need to learn lessons to get that piece of the puzzle and move it through, but it can be easier for us. So today I want to make it easier for you. Now, It doesn't mean that surrendering and trusting is an easy process. It is not. And this was the hardest thing. And I just remember, I just keep getting this visual as I talk to you guys, sitting on the couch in my old place in Aurelia, literally having this conversation with myself, like, what the fuck? And I just kept hearing, you need to surrender more. And I'm like, fuck, like, I just couldn't like grasp this concept of surrendering. Like, I was like, I kept fucking it up all the time, right? I kept surrendering for a minute and then moving back into control, and then surrendering for a minute and then moving back into control. And it was like this playground, this merry-go-round of fuckness that was happening in my life. And I will claim this and own this, and in the purity of its light, explain it to you, because of the fact that if I can move through this lesson and I can embody it, you can take it too. And if I can save you a year of challenge, then I want to save you a year of challenge, right? Because we go through things to teach from them. And sometimes that's the hardest part for us to honor and really dive into as humans, is that when we go through these experiences, we think that they're happening to us, but they're not. They're happening for us to teach from, for us to step into, for us to align through, right? And it's in that power that we get to serve the collective world and help shift people's energy faster. Because if you're a conduit and if you are a frequency, which you are, whether you are a healer or a spiritual being or any of that, even though all of us are spiritual beings, but just saying that out loud, whether you practice certain spirituality, it doesn't matter. Each person is a conduit in a certain way at a certain level of frequency. Now, some of the frequencies in the world are shit, and you know it and you feel it when you're around them. And you understand that from that perspective that I'm giving that to you, because that is the truth. Some of the energies in the world we do not want to be aligned with or attached to. And some of you have been playing in those playgrounds for a long time. And some of you have come to the awareness that you no longer want to be in those alignments, whether it's in relationships or friendships or in careers or in like avenues or in environments even. Like me going to a bar right now is totally misaligned. Like I can go to honor, because I have a good girlfriend of mine here in Costa Rica that owns one. I can go there to support her. I can go there to honor her, but they're long gone are the days I can stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning partying. Now, granted, I'm in my early 40s. So I've done my fair share of that, especially when I was in my early 20s, purposely avoiding my intuition. Now we've got tons of stories in connection with that I will save for a later date. But in this understanding of surrendering, and that the universe always has our back, always has our back. Divinity, source, God, whomever you choose to call this energetic connection within us, within our soul, our higher self, this connection right here within our heart center and within our soul, is there always in our best interest. So sometimes we don't see that because we're going through really dramatic or really potent lessons at the time, and they're very heavy and deep, and they could be considered dynamic, we'll say. And I honor that, and I understand that, and I honor that for you in the pulse that you're moving through in the world. And it's not easy sometimes, the things that we're dealing with, but we really need to recognize that there's a vibration of light that moves through them. There's a vibration of truth that moves through them. And if you can drop into your heart and really start to feel out that truth and have an understanding in it, you can dismantle that lesson really quickly. But the challenge we have on earth is that we make it this big grandiose thing, that we think we need to drop in deeper and go darker into the dark and get lost for days and weeks and hours and years. Some of us have been lost, thinking that we have to keep going down and suffering. We do not need to suffer. We definitely need to go in and learn lessons. And we need to go in and pull the lesson from this experience to be able to integrate it into us, bring it into our truth, dismantle it and understand what truth is in it for us. And then we get to put it out into the world, whether that's in programs, offerings, in content, in your relationship, in the way you speak to your friends, and dismantling that over the world. Now, I've been watching that there's a lot of people out there not trusting themselves, not even God or divinity. They don't trust themselves. And they're really in this battle consistently all the time in doubt. Do I buy this? Do I not buy this? Do I eat this? Do I not eat this? Do I step into this? Do I not step into this? Do I trust this? Do I not trust this? And they make it harder on themselves to maneuver through. When if we dropped into our heart and we just trusted and took action in that trust and just kept aligning that way. And sometimes When the universe says no, but you want a yes, the universe has your back. The no is a reason because A, you're going to get sidelined. B, it's just a distraction. C, you don't actually need that information. You've already integrated the lessons. You just need to now trust yourself. And D, you're going to waste time. So why not just trust whatever is dropping in and start to move through that trust? And I say that as simply as I can, knowing the fact that it's not easy to do. Guys, I get it. I get it. I look back on all the times that I had to question this. And then the universe brought in these beautiful, beautiful lessons for me to learn in small, bite-sized chunks. Like, you should take your keys. Why don't I take my keys? I'm just going to the garbage bin. I come back, the door's locked. I didn't take my keys. Luckily, at another point in time, something said to me, you should unlock this window. Luckily, I unlocked the window because I was able to get into that window when I didn't take my keys when my intuition said to, because the door just randomly locked behind me. Right? So you see these scenarios started to happen in my world, small things like this that I had to recognize and I had to step in because the message kept coming dominantly into my space and I couldn't avoid it any longer. So if I could listen in these small moments of time and I could take this maneuvering and action in these small moments of time, I then could look at it for bigger things. Right. So back when I was struggling, there was a time in my life that I really, really was struggling financially. And no matter what I did, took action on, nothing was moving. Nothing was moving. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Because I used to have what we call the bartender mentality. I can go out and make money every single day and have money always consistently moving around me. That's how I used to operate in life. And then it got to a point where I was purposefully not stepping into my mission that everything around me crumbled. I had no cash flow, nothing could get access to, I couldn't move stuff around. I was challenged. And I went, what the fuck? And I kept hearing this message, you need to surrender. I go, I have been surrendering. I have been, and I've been taking action and listening. You need to surrender more. What does that even mean? What does that mean? You need to drop in and trust in wholehearted fashion that God has your back, that the universe will provide, but you need to surrender this grip that you're holding on top of it, that you know everything. This grip that you're holding on to, that the control mechanism is a way that you have power when it's not, it's forced. This control mechanism, this energy field that you lead within, thinking that the possibilities are only here when there's this massive availability of possibility around us. But until you fully surrender, you don't get access to that because right now you're trying to maneuver it in this small little box, thinking that that's the only way. And I went, okay, I hear you. So I started dropping in more and I started opening up my heart more. And literally, I just imagine my heart opening. When I say that to you guys and you're like, what does she mean by opening up her heart? I imagine my heart opening up more. I imagine dropping into it. I imagine literally on my knees down in this field, in this valley, surrendering to the universe, to divinity, going, I don't know anymore. I have no idea. I have no clue what this is. No idea, but work through me because I understand and know that wealth and abundance and flow are pivotal energies of universal alignment. All of us have access to money, to energy, to love, to joy, to peace. All of us do. But us as humans are trying to control the mechanism, therefore keeping it small and tight in this little box right over here, not allowing us to fully step in and surrender into all the possibilities. So if we can remove the fucking box and we can drop in on our knees, you don't even have to be on your knees, but I'm giving you this graphic image on purpose so you could feel this. You drop in on your knees and you surrender to God and you say to him or to the universal energy, I surrender. I do not know how to move out of this. I have tried everything and all the things I know are not working. So this is yours. And I completely give this to you. All of it, every piece of it, all the movement of it, all the dynamics of it, it's yours. Take it from me. And now download into me what needs to happen to move out of this. And I will be a servant to your light. And I will step in and take action and alignment in that, because in that action is my truth. And it is. because the universe only gives you the dynamics of your truth to move through. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all, but your job is to listen. So this week, coming out on the podcast later on this week, I have an interview with a woman that I've been following on Instagram for a while. Her name is Reminder, and she's amazing. And a couple weeks ago, before she confirmed to even come on the podcast, it dropped into my field. You need to ask her to be on your podcast. And I was like, oh my God, like, look at how many followers she has. She's not going to say yes to my podcast. Like, I've only got like 18 episodes up. Her episode is 18, episode number 18. I only have 18 episodes up. You know, I'm just tractioning the following. Like, it's still moving in its momentum. And my human side gave me every single fucking excuse to not contact her to jump onto the podcast with me, all of it. So then I jumped into a program. I taught a program, and in the program, this came back around, and something says you need to have the courage to step in because this is aligned action. If you do not take this action, you are blocking the flow of the universe. You are blocking the flow of the universe. And I'm like, fuck. And it's true. And I am, and I was, right? And I recognize it. Guys, I'm still human in this experience. I still have my own stuff I'm dealing with, and I'm still moving through all of the learnings that I need as well. So after I got off teaching that program, I literally sent her a DM. I was like, hey, I love your vibe. Been following you for a while. I have this podcast. This is what it's about. I would love it if you came on as a guest. Let me know. And I gave her the gist, like, it's like, I'm still in the infancy phases of getting this out, but I just feel like your message would be a huge asset to the collective. She responds back, absolutely. I would love to be on your podcast. And I went, oh yeah, I forgot. It gets to be that easy when we step into aligned action, when we listen to what the universe is giving us and we drop into the energy of the universe, it gets to be this easy. So we had an amazing discussion. I can't wait to serve up the podcast to you and step in. And then I also realized that something else that I'm really leaning into for my next levels of manifestation and growth in parts of my life, she's connected to some of the key players that are included in that. And I went, oh, this is another cog in the wheel, not even understanding it at the time. So guys, our mind will not have an awareness to how all these pieces fall together. We can't put it together in a conscious way of how the possibilities are going to happen, because when we do, we are limiting all the possibilities because of the fact that they can't drop in. They cannot, because we're working within this conformed box. Only the things we know, only the life we've lived in this box. When we surrender and give it to God and give it to divinity and give it to whomever you choose to be in alignment with when it comes to verbiage, that divine light within us, all of the doors open. All the ones you never even could consider would happen. I'm in, like I said, this big manifestation thing, and I have no fucking idea how it's going to happen, but all I know, it will happen. And even on the days where all of it's stacked against me and the doubt creeps in a little bit, I surrender even more and I go, God, you got this. I will continue to take action, I promise. And if I don't, smack me across the head to remind me I need to move in that. Give me a billboard on the freaking side of the street that says, Colleen, are you listening? Because I might need it some days, because some days I float around in my own field. I float around, not being in awareness too, right? And like sometimes I'm not grounded, and I will own that, because that is a thing in my world, right? That is a thing. The key to all of this is awareness and trusting. Guys, divinity has our back. Always, always. We have access to plethora of multitudes of magnetism in this world. Everything we desire within our field can be in our field. We just got to get out of the way. And we got to trust and then take action, and trust and take action, and trust and take action. This alchemy course I'm teaching starting this week, and there will be recordings available. So I'm going to actually evergreen this program. So if you are feeling this at all, send me a DM. Once the program's done, I'm going to revamp the videos to be able to sell it, because this program is a foundation of ancient wisdom. It's a foundation of manifestation and metaphysics, and it's done through Hermetic philosophy, through the Kybalion, through the Emerald Tablets, through all the dynamic of the vibration of truth through the world that's been covered up for centuries and millennials, and like literally hidden from most of humanity. except for those few that carried the vibration forward. Now we're in a pivotal state in time in the world where truth is accelerating, and all the ancient mystic school truths and all the truth of the vibrational alignment and all the truth of the universal alignment is coming forward. So why this podcast came out in its divine timing, to remind you about surrendering and reminding you the universe has your back, because all those pivots of truth are leaking into the world right now so that we can remember it even at a conscious level. Because some of us get really fucked up in the brain, right? The brain and our mind really screws us up from stepping into our heart-centered space, right? It does all the time. We keep thinking and we keep thinking and we keep thinking. When if we drop into our heart and align in our truth, the answers always come to us. It's our job to trust this though. And I've watched over the years, the more I trust it, the more magical things happen. The more I trust it, the more synchronicity shows up. The more like, holy shit, you're not going to believe this energy shows up. Because it's crazy, quote unquote, when we step into this energetic space and this capacity that we have that's available to us, how we can move stuff through, how we can be in this alignment of this purity of light, and how we can maneuver this forward in this energetic capacity. So I feel like if anything you take from this podcast, if anything you take from this message today, is that you are worthy of all of it. You don't need to become worthy. You are worthy already because you were born into this world. And it's now time for you to start to drop in and trust and take aligned action and surrender and keep dropping into your heart. And for those of you on YouTube, you see this beautiful beam of sunshine coming through me, but it's almost like, for those of you guys listening to the podcast, there's this beautiful beam of light on top of my head, and it's radiating its light down through me. So you can barely see. It's like this veil of light going through my energetic force and my energetic capacity and my energetic vibration. And it's here right now to show you that anything is possible. And the more we surrender into our truth and our divinity within us, the more we can align in that. And like I've been saying, the more life gets easier and the more connected life becomes. And the more in alignment we are as humans to be able to step into this space and hold this vibration so that you can go out and help shift the energy you're meant to shift to help humanity then take it on in its purity of light. You've got access to that. You, my friend, are able to do that. Your small little pebble on this big, massive ocean, sandbox, let's call it, is necessary for all those other pebbles around you. You have a certain light field you're working within, and maybe you don't believe it right now. But if you continue to do this and watch this start to trickle and happen, you're going to watch and see how this pebble, how this vibration moves through the world. So I wanted to step on today just to mention this to you in your field. I hope you take whatever you want to take from this, and I hope you allow yourself to drop into this space to trust yourself in this pathway, because my friend, life is beautiful. And I'll see you guys all again soon.